their code. The hardware is fully charged.
Excellent. Now it's my turn.
Okay, everyone, get ready. We're going to shut the portal.
Not just yet, Guardian.
Blitz!
Now!
Rainmaker!
You won't get away with this!
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Hope you liked that little ditty at the beginning. Apologies that my graphic skills are lacking, but I feel that was a general consensus of the entire ReBoot fanbase community and their reaction to the trailer of the Guardian Code. The video on YouTube continues to get more and more thumbs down, more and more negative comments, and what I'm going to be talking to you about today is the CEO and president of Rainmaker Studios, the man behind this project, Michael Hefferon, and an interview he had with Indie Screen and his reasons for the changes, his reasons for the live action. Now, first off, I want to say I'm not meaning this to be a personal attack on Michael. It is a admirable quality that the first thing he wanted to do when he came on as president of Rainmaker was to bring back ReBoot, but I'm mainly commenting on just how this is going to turn into a disaster. So the whole basis of the Indie Screen one was basically just him kind of giving a heads up about what was being used, the assets, and the means in which the revival was being made. He does pay homage to the original by talking about how it was a pioneer for the CG pipeline. He makes a note about how actually he was told that he shouldn't try this. There's this part where he says, and I quote, "In fact, a lot of industry people told me don't make ReBoot the first project you develop. But whenever someone tells me not to do something, well, let's just say I love a challenge." End quote. Now, admittedly, there is some weight to that comment, mainly as though the show has been gone for almost 20 years, and anything that would come out now would maybe be true to the narrative, true to the theme, but in terms of what the show originally did, which was pushing the boundaries for CG television, it's not going to match that. There's about 800 million CG animated shows now. And what's a challenge about that too is that they're all simple shows. They're very cheap to make. Originally, they were more expensive. Mainframe Studios was going above and beyond to try and get that show on the air. Now, everything from Paw Patrol is a very simple show to create, and that was something that they would have to combat. And that's another comment that he makes about it, but he kind of comes off, well, he doesn't exactly sound the best here, and I quote, "The show we eventually created is certainly inspired by the original ReBoot, but I don't think of it as a reboot. Rather, we try to imagine that ReBoot had never been made, and we are making it for the first time for today's audiences," end quote. I can understand the business aspect of that, but then there's something about how the show is being made that kind of scared me. And I quote, "And in the spirit of the original, we had to up the animation ante. For ReBoot, the Guardian Code, we've done all our modeling, rigging, and animation using the animation software Maya. Then we bring it into Epic's game engine, Unreal. I believe we are the first major series to use a game engine for production. For example, semi-spoiler alert, Megabyte, the villainous virus from the original ReBoot, is back, and he's created a Sentinel army. We use the artificial intelligence component of the game engine to help us build that army, so that in the battle scene we could have 500 Sentinels attacking. We could never do that traditionally. The use of AI has allowed us to create massive sets now. We got constant movement. The world of the show is much more expansive, and the impact is much more cinematic," end quote. Now, after hearing that, what is the first thing you think of? The first saying? For me, it's that bigger isn't always better. That is screaming for why I have major red flags about this. It's an interesting idea, admittedly. Unreal, if they're using Unreal 4, which I assume they are, it's a fantastic engine. It looks breathtaking, and admittedly that would be able to help transition into aspects of big battles, because Maya chugs along when you're using many assets. So maybe using the game could possibly help. However, he does talk about the live action aspect, and he doesn't really help give much confidence for it. And I quote, "YTV also wanted a show with co-viewing appeal, so we wanted to reach kids but also hook parents and older siblings. So we went with a live-action animation hybrid to expand our audience range by making characters and topics more relatable because the characters are real kids dealing with the fallout of the cyberverse." End quote. And I don't know how you guys feel about that, but again, no one has said anything positive about that aspect, the fact that there are kids going into this, because there's so many examples of shows having done this before and have been terrible. One that really keeps coming up is VR Troopers. This was a terrible show, and that's what a lot of people are comparing this to. Something that I have personally felt from the trailer is that every time they go into the real world, the story is going to take a massive halt. The hacker character, the big arch villain, literally looks like something done for a Disney sitcom show, with how overdramatic he is, how ridiculous his setup is. He's just a guy in a hoodie in a darkly lit warehouse. Yet, this is what stereotype producers would think a evil hacker would look like. And again, going back to the live action aspect, when Vera is apparently going to be a real world character and she's introducing herself and they make that joke, well, she's just a foreign exchange student. That's just awful writing written all over it. And probably the biggest concern about this is that a Vancouver animation studio, one of the pioneer animation studios, is going to suffer for this. From what I had heard from my friends who were in the animation and artist department, in the early 2010s, Rainmaker Studios was in a bit of a gamble. They've been doing cheap, garbage stuff for a long time, on Barbie movies and whatnot, but they wanted to get back onto a serious project, aka trying to bring back ReBoot in some capacity. So they made a movie, and they put literally all of their assets into this, the film being Escape from Planet Earth, released in 2013. They had everything going for this movie. If it failed, the studio would be shut down. However, it didn't. Thankfully, it was a somewhat success, and that paved the way for what's happening now. Now, going back to Michael Hefferon, the guy isn't without experience. He founded the company that was responsible for films like Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest, and All Dogs Go to Heaven, the sequel. And when he was promoted to president, he took on this ReBoot project, which obviously was a dangerous gamble. And while the general consensus is this is going to be a giant dumpster fire, I am hoping that something good comes out of this. I'm just hoping that it's a case of a terrible trailer, but just from the visual style, the humor, the narrative direction, this just does not look like it's going to be a fun time, guys. Anyways, that's my video about Michael Hefferon and the current state of the views on ReBoot The Last Guardian. It is literally within this month. It's coming out at the end of this month. So we're going to see whether we were all right about this being a giant dumpster fire, or it might surprise us. I'm not very hopeful for the latter, however. Anyways, guys, if you like this video, leave a like. If you're interested in more, maybe subscribe. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.